The void was quiet, almost oppressively so, as if the universe itself had paused to witness the unfolding drama. Stars glimmered coldly, distant pinpricks of light that held no warmth, no concern for the fragile lives aboard the ships that now drifted in the outer edges of human-controlled space. Yet for those who lived within the hulls of these vessels, every second thrummed with tension. Humanity had been underestimated, again, and this time, the price for underestimation would be staggering. Captain Daniel Mercer stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, his broad shoulders rigid, jaw tight, and eyes locked on the enormous expanse before him. The Dominion fleet shimmered into view, a monstrous armada that seemed to stretch endlessly across the void. Each ship radiated power, its hulls bristling with weapons that could reduce whole cities to ash in seconds. The flagship, Maelstrom's Wrath, loomed at the center, a cathedral of destruction, black metal lined with pulsing energy conduits that hummed like a living organism. Lieutenant Claire O'Connell, young but unflinchingly competent, adjusted the tactical display with nimble fingers. "Sir, they're hailing us." "Standard Dominion protocol," she said, her voice a calm counterpoint to the rising tension. "Intimidation first. Expect nothing but threats and demonstrations of their firepower." Mercer's gaze didn't leave the fleet. "Let them talk," he said quietly. "We've seen their tactics before. They think power alone impresses. They've never met humans at full strength." A murmur ran through the bridge crew, a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. Unlike their alien adversaries, humans relied not just on technology but on ingenuity, courage, and the kind of tactical unpredictability that made the Dominion fleet's engineers sweat in simulations. It was what made the difference between survival and annihilation. The first glint of movement came as the Dominion ships adjusted their positions, the vast cruisers drifting in coordinated arcs. Energy weapons flared as if warming themselves, a silent promise of devastation. Mercer's heart rate remained steady. This was the calm before the storm, the moment where intent could be measured, weaknesses calculated. "Commander, sensor readings show no anomalies in their formation," O'Connell reported. Her eyes, bright under the dim lights of the bridge, betrayed a spark of excitement. "All systems nominal. But something's off." "Off how?" Mercer asked, not taking his eyes off the fleet. "Hard to say," she admitted. "It's subtle. Their confidence, the way they're presenting themselves, it feels almost theatrical. Like they're showing off, but they expect us to respond with fear." Mercer allowed himself a slow exhale. "They've underestimated us before. And they will again. Prepare the fleet." Below deck, the Revenant-class fighters hummed in their bays, dark and sleek, their hulls absorbing the starlight so that they almost vanished against the backdrop of the cosmos. These were the sharp teeth of humanity's war machine, small, fast, and armed with weapons that could pierce any known shielding system if aimed correctly. And they were about to be unleashed. The USS Valiant itself shimmered briefly as the cloaking field engaged. To the Dominion sensors, the ship was nothing more than a drifting asteroid, a piece of harmless debris in the endless void. Yet the energy signatures it emitted hinted at something dangerous, a silent heartbeat of intelligence and firepower that could turn the tide of war in seconds. On the bridge of the Maelstrom's Wrath, a Dominion lieutenant squinted at the sensor console. "Sir, anomaly detected. It's not registering correctly. It's hiding." Admiral Varix's multi-jointed fingers tightened around the control rail, his face a mask of impatience and irritation. "Check again. Every system is operational. What is this human trickery?" Mercer watched the Dominion's confusion unfold like a predator observing prey. "All units," he said, voice calm but commanding, "deploy stealth fighters. Engage vectors on their flagship. Timing is everything." The Revenant-class fighters slipped from their bays like shadows, invisible until the perfect moment. They twisted through the void with predatory grace, weaving past asteroid belts and energy flares, engines silent, weapons primed. Each fighter carried a payload designed not for widespread destruction but precision devastation, torpedoes and plasma lances calculated to cripple, not obliterate, strategic systems. The first strike was near poetic. A volley of torpedoes streaked from human positions, their trajectory calculated to perfection. Dominion shields flared and absorbed some of the damage, but cracks appeared almost instantly along their hulls. Sparks erupted across weapon arrays, sensors blinded, and panic rippled through crews that had never known fear. "Sir, they're recalibrating." "They think it's a game," O'Connell said, her voice taut with excitement. Mercer's gaze didn't waver. "Then let's make it a lesson." He initiated the next phase. The USS Valiant shifted in the void, slipping past detection grids, using gravitational anomalies from a nearby asteroid field to alter its trajectory. Behind the Dominion flagship, it released a concentrated strike, a series of high-energy torpedoes aimed directly at auxiliary shield generators. Explosions blossomed along the alien ship's hull, illuminating the void like a firework in slow motion. The Dominion flagship trembled under the impact, systems sparking, communications interrupted. Across the fleet, confusion and fear spread like wildfire. The aliens had believed themselves untouchable, and now they discovered the terrifying truth: humans could strike with precision and adapt with unmatched speed. Admiral Varix roared in disbelief, his voice translated by the ship's universal communicator. "These humans, it cannot be. How are they so precise?" "They've learned," Mercer murmured, more to himself than anyone else, "to survive against impossible odds. And to win against the arrogant." The human fleet pressed the advantage. Cloaked ships slipped into gaps, striking at vulnerable points, while fighters darted through broken formations, threading fire through impossible angles. Every human move was choreographed yet spontaneous, a lethal ballet that left the Dominion scrambling. Mercer's mind remained a calm storm, calculating probabilities, reading patterns. "Do not overextend," he warned O'Connell. "Predict their panic and exploit it. Every choice they make now is forced, every reaction predictable." "Vectors to flagship locked, sir," she reported, eyes fixed on the display. "Ready to engage with concentrated fire." The Dominion had expected awe. They had expected fear. They had not expected mastery, intelligence, or ruthlessness. They were about to learn that humans did not bend beneath intimidation. They struck back with the quiet inevitability of a storm. In the darkness of space, a single human warship, the USS Valiant, hung like a shadow at the edge of a galaxy that had always underestimated Earth. And as the first strikes found their marks, the Dominion fleet realized, too late, that they were no longer masters. They were prey. And the hunt had only just begun. The aftermath of the first engagement left the Dominion fleet staggered, their confidence fractured like the hulls of their damaged cruisers. Sparks and debris floated silently in the void, drifting toward distant stars, while alarms blared aboard the surviving ships. The Maelstrom's wrath hovered at the center of the chaos, its black hull scarred and smoking, a stark reminder that dominance was never absolute. Captain Daniel Mercer's gaze swept across the bridge of the USS Valiant. His crew worked with precision born of countless simulations and endless drills, their focus absolute. The Dominion's first wave of attacks had been powerful but predictable. Mercer had seen the patterns, anticipated the reactions, and now he intended to exploit every hesitation. "Status report," he said, his voice calm, controlled, a razor's edge of authority cutting through the tension. Lieutenant Claire O'Connell tapped rapidly on the tactical display, her eyes scanning for weak points. "Shields are stabilizing, sir, but their weapons are still a threat. One cruiser has lost propulsion, another has multiple weapons offline. Targeting vectors on the flagship are ready for coordinated fire." Mercer nodded. "Good. But this isn't just about damage. This is about making them understand what underestimation costs. Their arrogance won't last if we show them consequences." The Dominion fleet, massive and imposing as it was, now moved with hesitation. Crews barked orders over comms, and their formations, once flawless, were fractured. Human eyes, honed for pattern recognition and strategy, picked up every subtle flaw. On the Maelstrom's wrath, Admiral Varix's claws scraped against the control rail as he struggled to maintain composure. "These humans, their technology should not, it cannot be this effective," he growled. "Double the power to weapons arrays. Lock onto every ship. They will learn, they will learn." But for every volley of energy lances, for every pulse of plasma, human ships were already moving in ways the Dominion could not predict. Cloaked frigates emerged from angles the Dominion assumed secure, launching torpedoes that struck auxiliary shields and propulsion nodes. One by one, cruisers began to falter, their weapons firing randomly, defenses misaligned. The USS Valiant initiated a slingshot maneuver around a nearby neutron star. The gravitational pull accelerated the ship, and in a breathtaking instant, it appeared behind the Dominion flagship. High-energy torpedoes streaked outward, impacting with precision at the shield generators. Sparks erupted in brilliant arcs, and the flagship shuddered, unable to stabilize. "Impact confirmed," O'Connell said, her voice taut with controlled excitement. "Shields are down." The bridge of the Maelstrom's wrath filled with chaos. Dominion officers barked conflicting orders, sensors flashing red as systems overloaded. Panic and emotion alien to their species cracked through the ranks. "Commander!" "Sir!" "The shields are failing," one lieutenant cried, claws trembling. Varix roared, a sound that reverberated through the flagship's hull. "This cannot be. These humans are primitive. How are they so precise?" "They've adapted," Mercer said quietly to himself. "And they never stop learning." The human fleet pressed the advantage. Revenant-class fighters darted through gaps, weaving in and out of fire with preternatural agility. Torpedoes struck with lethal accuracy, disabling weapons arrays and critical systems. Cloaked frigates slipped silently among the chaos, cutting through communications networks, leaving Dominion ships blind and disoriented. Amid the battle, a human destroyer, the USS Resolute, executed a daring boarding maneuver. Magnetic grapples attached to the hull of a crippled cruiser. Boarding teams, trained for zero-gravity combat, prepared to infiltrate and neutralize key systems. The Dominion, expecting a conventional engagement, was unprepared for such audacity. Mercer's voice cut through the comms, calm but decisive. "Focus on the flagship's command nexus. Disable their systems, don't destroy them outright. We need the lesson to be clear, humans are not to be underestimated." "Sir," O'Connell said, eyes scanning the readouts, boarding teams reporting minor resistance. "They didn't expect our approach. Cruiser is being taken." "Excellent," Mercer replied. "Maintain pressure. Predict their panic, then exploit it. Timing is everything." In the void, a shockwave from a Dominion cruiser that had been hit mid-broadside sent debris hurtling toward nearby human ships. The USS Valiant executed a calculated evasive maneuver, twisting around the wreckage with grace that seemed almost impossible. Missiles fired in pursuit were met with countermeasures that scattered them harmlessly into the blackness. Every human move was a calculated risk, a dance with death, yet executed flawlessly. Across the Dominion fleet, confusion reigned. Officers struggled to relay orders as systems failed, shields dropped, and communications went dark. Ships that were once the embodiment of fear now drifted in helpless disarray. The galaxy's most feared warriors, trained for centuries in precision combat, were struggling to survive against a force they had assumed would submit. Mercer's mind, a storm of calculations and probabilities, never slowed. "O'Connell, prepare concentrated fire on the flagship. Torpedo volleys plus fighter sweeps. Timing to the millisecond." "Vectors locked," she confirmed. "Ready on your mark, sir." The human fleet's coordinated strike was devastating. Torpedoes ripped through weakened shield generators, while fighters swarmed the flagship like shadows, striking at weapon arrays and propulsion nodes. Sparks and explosions lit the void in brief, dazzling bursts. The Dominion flagship shuddered violently, systems failing one by one, a monument to arrogance brought low by precision and strategy. Admiral Varix bellowed in frustration, clawed hands slamming the console. "Humans! Impossible! You cannot defy us." "They're not defying," Mercer said quietly. "They're learning, adapting, and failing to account for what humans do when pushed. That's the mistake they never recover from." And then came the final, breathtaking maneuver. The USS Valiant led a synchronized strike, fighters darting in, torpedoes striking from every angle, and a concentrated electromagnetic pulse temporarily disabling the flagship's core systems. Sparks danced across the hull as the once mighty vessel shuddered, crippled but intact. For the first time, the Dominion fleet felt what humans had long endured in silence: fear. Not a fleeting hesitation, but the recognition of vulnerability, the understanding that pride and power alone could not guarantee survival. Mercer allowed himself a rare smile. "This is only the beginning," he murmured. "The galaxy is about to learn the cost of arrogance." The human ships drifted for a moment, observing the chaos they had orchestrated. The Dominion fleet, shaken and fractured, began to pull back, assessing the damage, reassessing the threat. Humanity had struck with precision, ruthlessness, and unrelenting strategy. The message was clear: Earth was not to be underestimated. In the silence after the storm, the stars seemed to shine differently. They were no longer indifferent observers. They were witnesses to a force that had long been dismissed as inconsequential: humans, dangerous, clever, and utterly relentless. And somewhere in the dark, Varix realized the truth: too late, the humans had only just begun. The battlefield stretched across the void like a shattered tapestry of metal and fire. Smoke and debris drifted between the stars, remnants of the Dominion fleet's pride and arrogance. The silence was broken only by the low hum of human engines and the distant crackle of failing alien systems. Captain Daniel Mercer stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, eyes narrowed, the weight of command pressing against his shoulders. This was the moment that would define humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. "Report," Mercer said, voice steady, betraying none of the tension that rippled through the bridge. Lieutenant Claire O'Connell's fingers flew across the console. "Flagship is crippled, sir. Command nexus offline. Most cruisers are disoriented or drifting. Boarding teams report full control over 2 major vessels. Resistance is minimal but sporadic." Mercer's lips curved into a thin, controlled smile. "Good. Keep pressure on them. Don't give them time to regroup." The Dominion, once a monolithic symbol of interstellar dominance, was now fractured. Fear and confusion replaced arrogance. Their formations were broken, shields flickering, weapons offline. Their officers barked orders that were impossible to execute, their communication networks crippled by human sabotage. Every ship that had once radiated confidence now drifted helplessly, a monument to hubris. Admiral Varix, aboard the Maelstrom's Wrath, slammed his claws against the control rail. His voice roared through the universal translators, a mixture of fury and disbelief. "Humans! You cannot, this is impossible. We are the masters. We are eternal." Mercer leaned slightly toward O'Connell, voice calm but carrying the weight of finality. "They've learned the hard way that arrogance has consequences. Don't underestimate them, but don't hesitate. End this before they recover." The human fleet moved with precision born of countless drills and simulations. Cloaked frigates slipped between the Dominion ships, striking at propulsion nodes and sensor arrays. Torpedoes streaked through space, finding gaps no alien had anticipated. Revenant-class fighters swarmed like lethal shadows, cutting through weapon arrays, disrupting communications, and striking with terrifying accuracy. Mercer's mind ran at 1,000 calculations per second, plotting trajectories, predicting reactions, and coordinating strikes with the efficiency of a seasoned commander. Prepare the final assault on the flagship. Focus on the core systems. We disable, not destroy. Let them see the cost of underestimating Earth. O'Connell nodded. Vectors locked, sir. Torpedo spreads and fighter squadrons in position. Ready on your mark. The USS Valiant led the charge, moving like a phantom around the remnants of the Dominion fleet. The flagship's remaining shields flared weakly, a futile defense against the oncoming precision strikes. Torpedoes ripped through its hull in synchronized volleys, each impact sending shockwaves that rattled the remaining cruisers. Fighters darted in and out of gaps, targeting weapon nodes and propulsion lines, leaving the enemy disoriented and blind. In the chaos, human boarding teams completed their work. Magnetic grapples latched onto crippled ships, deploying squads that neutralized remaining resistance and secured critical technology. The Dominion, expecting conventional combat, could not fathom the audacity or efficiency of these small, fast-moving human forces. Admiral Varix's roar of rage echoed across the fleet. "Humans! I am eternal. You cannot. A pulse of electromagnetic energy from the USS Valiant cut through his systems, temporarily blinding sensors and disrupting communications. Sparks danced across the flagship's hull as critical systems failed. Varrix's voice was suddenly silenced, replaced by alarms and the hiss of venting energy. The Maelstrom's wrath, once the apex of Dominion engineering, shuddered helplessly in the void. Mercer allowed himself a rare, quiet moment of satisfaction. "It's done," he said softly. "They've learned. Not by fear alone, but by facing consequences they never anticipated." The remaining Dominion ships, witnessing the destruction and organized dominance of the humans, began retreating. Shields flickered as they disengaged, engines straining to escape the calculated net that had trapped them. Humanity's precision and strategy had forced a tactical withdrawal, an admission that they could no longer hold the field against Earth's ingenuity. Across the fleet, human crews breathed but did not relax. Eyes scanned for hidden threats, weapons remained hot, and every system was monitored. The lesson had been delivered, but the war was never over. There was always vigilance. Always preparation. Always the knowledge that the galaxy could strike back if humans let their guard down. Mercer's gaze lingered on the retreating Dominion fleet. Let them go, for now. The galaxy will remember this day. And next time, they will think twice before underestimating us. O'Connell stood beside him, fingers resting lightly on the console. "Sir, they'll be back. But this time, we've shown them exactly what Earth is capable of." Mercer's eyes swept across the crew. Each face was marked by exhaustion, adrenaline, and triumph. These were humans at their peak, adaptable, resilient, and willing to face impossible odds without flinching. "They won't forget," he said. "And neither will we. Humanity doesn't just survive, Claire. We strike back. And we do it with precision, strategy, and resolve." The stars beyond the viewport seemed to shimmer with a new light. Perhaps it was a trick of human imagination, or perhaps the universe itself was acknowledging a force that had long been underestimated. Humanity had emerged not just as survivors, but as a species capable of rewriting the rules of engagement in the cosmos. The fleet regrouped, damaged ships moving to rendezvous points, fighters returning to their bays, and boarding teams reporting full mission success. For the first time in the conflict, a sense of calm settled over the USS Valiant. It was not the end of human vigilance, but it was the end of this battle, a resounding declaration that Earth would no longer be dismissed as a backwater. Mercer allowed himself one final, lingering look at the battlefield. Debris floated silently in the void, illuminated by distant starlight, a graveyard of arrogance and hubris. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, and new adversaries, but today had proven that humanity was not to be underestimated. "Set course for home," Mercer ordered, voice carrying authority and quiet pride. "We've earned a day to regroup. The galaxy will know our name, and next time, they'll remember it before they even arrive." O'Connell's fingers danced across the console, entering the coordinates. "Course set, sir. Engines primed. Ready to jump." As the human fleet surged forward, stars streaking past the hulls of the ships, the Dominion fleet's retreating forms shrinking in the distance, Mercer allowed himself a rare, satisfied thought: humanity had survived, fought, and won. Not through sheer size or overwhelming numbers, but through intellect, precision, and the indomitable spirit that had defined their species for millennia. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity was dangerous, adaptable, and unstoppable when cornered. And the legacy of this battle would echo across the stars for generations to come. Captain Daniel Mercer looked out at the void, voice almost a whisper to himself: "This is only the beginning. And the galaxy will remember the cost of underestimating Earth." The stars, once indifferent and distant, now seemed to recognize the rise of a new power. Earth had awakened, its warships deadly, its people resolute, and its legacy unbreakable. The USS Valiant and its fleet sailed onward, silent predators in the void, leaving behind a trail of shattered pride and a galaxy that would never see humanity the same way again.